Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious Treksperts.
Go behind the scenes of all your favorite Star Trek series, from the original series to today, with the stars, writers, producers, and more, every Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And for more, subscribe at trekspertsplus.com.
It's the logical thing to do.
Keep on trekking. Ingloriously, of course. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
This is DAREN DOCHTERMAN, and we are the Inglorious Treksperts.
I thought it was a classic femme fatale. So much fun.
Like that Shakespearean lace in your acting.
I said, Gene, what do you want from this character?
I want you to just take the character and make it your own.
I had a good time on the film.
On day one, the movie was already $15 million over budget.
We started this movie without an ending. That's like painting yourself into a corner.
I don't think we've ever had a Star Trek captain on our show.
Being, as you said, number one on the call sheet, it is a producer's position if you're going to take it seriously. I was so glad they didn't cast me as Lorca.
You famously wrote that script in 12 days.
On one level, I wrote the script, and on another level, the story was written by everybody and his brother.
Well, I was going to say, what was your response when you were directing and Terry, sort of called you aside and said, hey, I want you to get back in front of the camera again?
I said, he sort of chummed the water a little bit. Are you ready to play Riker? What I thought he was saying was, you better go to the gym and lose some weight. Lines. Are you going to trim your beard? Don't cut your hair. My interest was totally piqued. It's not hyperbole to say it's the best Riker material I've ever had.
New episodes available every Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts. Or subscribe today at Trekspertsplus.com. But keep on trekking, ingloriously, of course. Hey, this is Mark A. Altman.
And this is DAREN DOCHTERMAN.
And this is Ashley Miller.
And we are the Inglorious
Treksperts. Is there a lag or something with your Zoom that you waited 20 minutes to echo my...
There's always a lag.
Do I need to cue you, like with a pointer or something?
No, that won't help.
Because Mark and I sang in harmony that time. I was actually really proud of that.
Dun, 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 the Treksperts, dun, 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 dun. That's what it looks like behind you right now.
People are so used to us not saying it in unison that I think saying it in unison would throw people off.
I think you're probably right. It would freak them out.
You know when we were in unison? This
when
last
we were
week.
On stage.
Yes.
At Star Trek Las Vegas. For a remarkable 4 days of Treksperts programming.
4 days.
I got to tell you, now, I got to tell you what an idiot I am. Not because I said yes to this whole thing, but no, this is crazy. So today I tested myself for COVID. A lot of people from the convention got COVID. A lot of people from San Diego got COVID. I'm exhausted. I figured I should check. So I do it. And I'm like, oh no. I got COVID, right? I'm looking at the thing.
But you mistakenly took a pregnancy test.
Yeah, that's right. So I told the kids, I said, listen, I got bad news. I'm going to have to isolate. And my son says, can I see the test? And I said, yeah, you can see the test, but it's just going to tell you it's not going to be anything different than when and he looks at it and he shows me and I'm like, oh, I don't have COVID. That's the control line. That's not negative. That's not positive. I don't have COVID. And it was like, and then he went running to my daughter. Our dad's an idiot.
See, in my house, that just goes unsaid. Everybody knows it.
Oh my God. I felt so stupid. I hadn't taken one of these in a long time. So I forgot. I didn't read the instructions and I saw the line on the left-hand side. And I'm like, oh no, a Botany Bay. And I'm like, oh no. And then, but I didn't realize it's supposed to be the 2 lines, and I was totally fine. So anyway, there you go. I probably not the way to start out a show about our great experience in Las Vegas, but there you go.
Mark Altman, master of detail.
Well, I got to tell you, not only could we not go 20 feet at the convention on the way back to our room without people stopping us and telling us how much they loved our programming and or the Inglorious Treksperts podcast, but we're getting so many emails and tweets about how great our programming track was at Star Trek Las Vegas. And, we're so grateful to all our friends over at Trek Core who gave us such great coverage, and Drew and Brian Drew and Laurie Ulster at Trek Movie who took such good care of us. It was great to see them. And just a unprecedented outpouring of kudos for what we pulled off. And that was nice. It made it worthwhile.
Wasn't that a title of a Deep Space Nine episode, Outpouring of Kudos?
Yeah, that was the 8th season.
I thought Kudos was like a Klingon commander in one of the episodes.
Yeah, Commander Kudos.
Kudos.
Yeah.
Great job, everyone. Much honor.
How great you are. Speaking of how great, I got to give credit to our Treksperts Away team, which did an amazing job. We put out the bat signal, and we got put together a really terrific team of volunteers that did a great job. So thanks to everybody who came and helped us in Vegas. We couldn't have done it without you. It was, this was like, Ashley, this was like producing a TV show or a movie. This was a hell of an undertaking.
Yeah, holy crap. To a degree, I don't think I expected. Look, when you're working in television, you just expect everything is a crisis all the time, at any time, day or night. I didn't quite predict that level of intensity for this, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But certainly, let's just say that Plan 9 from outer space, just the prep for that. It was an exciting last couple of days leading up to the big show, and wow, man.
Well, I don't know how much we need to say about but let's just say we had some cast issues. One was due to COVID. One of our actors had caught COVID at a previous convention, and
she read her test correctly.
Yeah. Although, wouldn't it be funny if she hadn't?
And she was so sweet. She was less concerned about the COVID than that she was going to miss the reading. Then we had another actor fall out, but we're so lucky because ultimately we had just this amazing ensemble of actors that joined us. Everyone from Jonathan Frakes to Terry Farrell to the Isaac Robinson Smith, and Courtney Taylor joined us late in the process. Gabrielle Ruiz, Nana Visitor answered the bat signal. And of course, we had John Delancey and Troy Baker. It was just Dan Fogler,
Claudia Christian,
and Claudia Christian. It was an abundance of riches.
And Mary McDonnell.
Oh my God, saving the best for last, right, Madam President?
Who I think she said, at one point I was talking to her. You might have been there, Mark, but she said that she thought that was probably the most fun part she'd ever played.
Wow. That's so funny because she said to me, "When are we going to do this again?" And I said we serve at the pleasure of the president. So,
she would be the president. So
yeah, so we'll have to see. It's like when we survived and it was successful, I was like, great, done. Never have to do this again.
And then we had 2 more days to do.
Yeah, then we had 2 more days to do. And
I wanted to sleep through Saturday. No.
Have you noticed all the photos so far? All have the theremin player front and center in front of everybody. He knows how to milk it, doesn't he?
That
Michael.
maniac. Oh, I love it, man.
He did a great job.
He absolutely did. Like right down to I loved his vest.
Yeah,
it's like
very.
He was a showman.
Very sparkly.
He was a showman. He knew he was going to Vegas, and he milked it, and he was great, and the audience loved him. So that was terrific. By the way, I got to tell you, there's something. You know what the most depressing part of this whole weekend was for me? That when we were in the Rio, they were playing 90s music, that they're not playing 80s music anymore. Do you know how old that makes me feel? Because they used to play, when I was a kid, 50s music, right?
Right.
And then it was like 60s music. And, and recently it was like, the 80s music was what they would play in these places all the time. When you're, in the elevator and around when you go to these places. Now they're playing 90s music.
What's next? The aughts?
Yeah.
Oh,
God.
yes.
It's terrifying. It really made me feel old. But
that
but
is
are
what
we?
made you feel old.
I felt young, like when the world was new.
No, the
You're
fact
a
that
liar.
Yeah, but it was great. I mean, we all got in on Tuesday, and we had and for those of you who love the show for the restaurant reviews, I got to tell you, we had a real winner. We went over to Caesar's Palace to Peter Luger's, and while nothing will match the original location in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, this was pretty close. This was pretty great. Peter Luger's at Caesar's Palace, and we had a great time and great steak, and Darren had the chicken though.
I had the chicken because I didn't want to start off big.
Yeah. Also,
have to keep going.
How can you have the duck with a credit writing like this?
Well, I couldn't, obviously.
Yeah, highly recommended. Although Caesar's a madhouse, and I think we all agreed that we're probably going to avoid Caesar's
not going to do that
future.
Again.
Yeah. But for those of you who were wondering, I mean, Peter's is a pretty pricey restaurant. Don't worry, we made up for it because on Wednesday we went to Applebee's, which we're not going to review. Because Ashley and I were doing a Costco run for the Green Room with Aaron Ratner, our production coordinator, and we were all starving. So the place next to the Costco was Applebee's, so we went to Applebee's. And I don't know if I've ever been to Applebee's before, but I remember it from Survivor when they said this woman on Survivor said it was her special place with her and her daughter. There's no danger of it becoming my special place.
Life.
Although that night we went to Luckley's, which was at the hotel, which is the former site of the All American Burger.
All American Grill.
All American Grill, but the Luckley's is considerably better.
Although I will say, I mean, and look, obviously I'd rather eat dinner at Luckley's than at All American Grill. Except here's the problem: with All American Grill gone, it reduced our breakfast options to hash a go-go, which is fine, but the line is just crazy, and the amount of food they give you at hash a go-go, like they brought a pancake to Caden that he could have slept in.
Oh, we could have used it at Flying Saucers for Plan 9. It's that big. I mean, I went there on Monday when, once we were done with Isaac, and I got to say, the serving portions were enormous, and they do something which I really hate. They don't take the bill at the table.
Oh,
so you got to pay when you leave, and there was a huge line. And I don't believe in, once I'm done with a meal, I'm done. Once I'm leaving a place, it's like when they check your receipt. I'm like, once I paid, no, I don't want to be in the store anymore. I'm done. Don't keep me on a line to check my receipt. It's the same thing with the food. It's like once I'm done with the meal, I want to pay and go. I don't want to wait on a line to get out of the restaurant. It really annoyed me, as you could tell.
I couldn't tell at all. Darren, could you tell?
I could tell a little bit.
Can I tell you something else I noticed about the crowds at STLV? Very different crowd than Comic-Con. And I said this to the writers before our panel, they do not like snark and sarcasm. Like they are very sweet, and they want to hear uplifting stuff.
Straightforward.
And what the hell were we doing there?
And I know, right? And they want to hear very encouraging and positive stuff. Like they do not like the sarcasm. Like the sarcasm did not go over well. And I said with the writers, because all our writers on that, most of them are very sarcastic people like us. And I'm just like, I just want you to know, audience here does not respond well to that. So just be aware that, probably err on the side of more positive and less negative. Not negative. Sarcasm's not negative. It's just
it's just
It's just
snark is what we do.
Snark is what we do.
we don't really do snark on Treksperts.
That's true. We are about the love, but
we
there is a little bit
on the edge of it a little bit. But
city on
the edge of snark.
Of snark.
Yeah. That's another. That sounds like somebody who was in Journey to Babel, Ambassador Snark. So anyway, So Wednesday was an interesting day. We were getting all prepared for the big show, the big shoe. And Thursday it all began, and that was a really great day. We had just I can't get enough of her. That Andy Kindred, Gene Kuhn's assistant. We've had such a good time with her in the past, and she did a great panel on Gene Kuhn and other Trek trailblazers. Good friend, the Tipton brothers were back to do a couple of panels. Longtime listener Matt Shergi was there to talk about his new book about Star Trek video games. Dan Martin, who's been on the show before for Resurgence, he was there. And Darren, you got to do a great panel with Dave Blass and John Eves.
Yeah, talking all about the history of the Enterprise and its various incarnations. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's funny because there were a bunch of panels. Obviously, we were all very busy when we were not on a panel, greeting guests and dealing with, issues backstage and, as I said, back of house stuff. And so I really am looking forward to hearing that episode when we broadcast it. And I want to be very clear to everyone. We are going to curate some of these panels over the coming weeks. We are not going to be airing everything that happened at the convention because we wanted to keep it special for those who did make the pilgrimage to Vegas. So while we are going to use a bunch of these panels on the show over the next couple of months, because we're not just going to do a dump of panels or and take a vacation.
Yeah, we're not just going to take a dump on you.
Yeah, nobody's taking a dump on anybody around here, not unless you pay extra.
Plus, we also have some great panels coming up at GalaxyCon in San Jose in 2 weeks.
Those will dump on you.
I'm sure we're going to want to share some of those as well. And, we also want to alternate with non-interview shows.
Yeah.
Right, Karen Walker? Nah.
Yeah, you guys like it when we shoot the crap with each other.
Yeah, so and we are going to, some of these are going to be on Deck 78. So I just want to point out we're going to put some of these on Deck 78. Now, the way Deck 78 is going to work going forward is that Deck 78 will get episodes exclusively for an exclusive window. And after a couple of months, the episodes will become available to everyone on Inglorious Treksperts, but you will get them early if you're a Deck 78 subscriber. So the only way to listen to some of these episodes initially will be if you're a Deck 78 subscriber. Then Friday was a remarkable day because there was a tower of nachos that we had for dinner at the Guy Fieri restaurant that I'd never seen anything quite like it.
Yes. Burrito Baracho is the name of the place, and it was the only thing open.
Well, I was just going to say, you may wonder how we got Darren to go for Mexican. Well, the answer is very easy. When Plan 9 was over, it was super late, or felt super late. It wasn't actually that late. And the only restaurant open was the Mexican restaurant. And I was so happy because I'm like, oh, we're going to go for Mexican. And it was really good. But we got there and they're like, you got to order right away because we're closing.
We're closing.
But they delivered this tower of nachos. It was really good. And I wanted to go back, but that was not really in the cards.
Can I just tell you that I remember absolutely nothing after the end of the show and the actors dispersed? Like, my memory stops because I know that, Katie and I didn't go to dinner. We just
missed great nachos.
But my memory stops even before we get to the elevator. I think I was already checked out and gone. I was so tired, man.
Well, Friday, it was super stressful.
Yeah.
But you also missed having dinner there was Nana and John Delancey.
Oh, that was nice. Well, first of all, we got stopped by someone at the bar who said how much her and her friends, she said she went with 20 friends, they were Gold Seat members, that they loved the stage reading. And of course, asked if we'd be doing it again. But she said it was just the best, and they were so glad we did and so appreciative. She was really, really sweet. And then we saw John and Nana having dinner, and we went up to talk to them. And they both said how much they loved it. And hoping that we would, John was the one who said,
which we found very surprising.
Yeah, because he has a game face when he's acting, so you can't tell if he's having fun or not or enjoying himself. And he was the first person to say, "When are we going to do this again?"
Yeah.
So that was nice. Like Ashley alluded to, this was very stressful because there's a lot of moving parts to it. And of course, we're so grateful that to everyone that came, because of course we were able to spread the gospel of PanCam, the Pancreatic Action Network Against
Cancer
Pancreatic
Action
Cancer. Yeah, and so and Team Trek. So we hope that people who were there are going to support the charity. I know we are. And we're going to be, in the future weeks, we're going to be auctioning off some exclusive Plan 9 merchandise exclusively to benefit PanCan. And that will be signed merchandise from the actors, including a giant poster and some of the scripts. So we're still figuring out the best way to do that. But we'll keep you abreast of that on the podcast because we want to maximize the donation to PanCam. By auctioning off all this great stuff we have from the reading, which was really remarkable. And we will not be airing that on the podcast, but we will include excerpts in a future episode.
Right.
We will share.
Who's Mike?
Just a taste.
Well, just to give you a taste,
because again, we want to maintain the value of the people who paid good money to see that.
That's right.
Yeah, and also we hadn't said anything to the actors about potentially. So,
right.
But we will share excerpts because there's some stuff. I mean, when Dan Fogler does Eros's monologue about stupid, you humans are stupid. I mean, it was amazing that he couldn't hear us on the stage because we were dying backstage. We were dying. And we run some photos. Ashley looks like Artie in Larry Sanders Show, like sitting by the monitor and just like laughing and smiling, and it was so funny. I felt like we were on the Larry Sanders Show or something.
It definitely felt like something, dude. I mean, it's so weird because I kept telling everyone, right, that look, don't be afraid of things going wrong because the only way to do this wrong is if everything goes right. And yet, of course, I'm sitting up there just waiting for the world to crash down around our ears, like just to do it wrong in the wrong way. And it just never seemed to happen. At one point, maybe 10 minutes before the show was done, our good friend Derek Hughes came backstage and, he was like telling us, "Oh, congratulations." I was like, "Shut up. Don't say that yet. This could still go so horribly wrong."
Can I tell the Frakes story or should I not tell the Frakes story?
Depends on the Frakes story.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Tell the Frakes story. It's great.
Okay. Yeah. So we had an actor fall out for legitimate reasons. He wasn't able to do it, and so we needed to have a headliner. So we got Jonathan was kind enough to say, I'm happy to do it. Friend of the podcast. Obviously, we've worked together a lot. It was very menschy of him. So the next day after he comes aboard and he got all the material, I run into him and he says, he's very circumspect. I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much, Jonathan. We're so happy that you're doing this." And he says, "Yeah, I read the play." And he's very tentative. He goes, "It's not very good." And I'm like, "Wait a second. You know what we're doing, don't you?" He goes, "Not exactly." I'm like, "Not exactly?" He goes, "Yeah. I mean, I don't know about this." I said, "Jonathan, have you ever seen the movie Ed Wood?" He goes, "Yeah, it's great." I said, "Exactly. It's about the making of the worst movie ever made, Plan 9 from Outer Space." "Right, I remember that." "This is the play we're doing. It's the best actors in the world doing the worst movie ever made." And he goes, "Now I get it. That's great."
That was the equation.
It was so funny. Because I'm like, I couldn't believe that, in all the craziness, no one had really ever explained it to him. And in most of the cases, the actors were familiar with this Plan 9 thing. So it was so funny. And he was terrific. Everyone was terrific and had a great time.
And in fairness to him, it's nearly everybody else had an opportunity for Meredith Lane, our director, to reach out to them by email or by whatever to really lay out all this stuff and explain it. And, Jonathan, as you said, he was immense. He said, "Sure, count me in, I'll come help." And he never got that. He never had the opportunity to get that speech.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but she spent time talking to everybody prior to, and then he came in at the last second. And so he hadn't really been briefed the way that the other people had. So that was a really great day. But that wasn't the only great thing. Jeff Bond did a panel on the music of Star Trek with Jay Chataway and Jeff Russo and Nami Melamed. So, and that was very well received. We had a fantastic panel on Gene Roddenberry's Other Galactic Funk about Andromeda and Earth Final Conflict with Ashley and Robert Hewitt Wolf, Gab Stanton, Derek Hughes,
Lisa Klink.
Lisa Klink, the great, Lisa Klink. I was just going to say, because host of the Treksperts briefing room, that was terrific, and we recruited the Spy Hards to do a wonderful panel on Our Man Bashir with Ronald D. Moore and Ira Bear, and they're going to be airing that on their podcast, which I'm really looking forward to hearing that panel, because again I couldn't be there, and then DAREN took us inside Factory Entertainment and X06 after following Brian Volk Weiss's tour de force about Star Trek toys, and I got great feedback on that.
A mess of fun things.
Yeah, those poor Factory Entertainment people, man.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh man,
They had a bunch of things happen to them over the weekend.
Yeah, nothing good. It had nothing to do with the convention or their products. It was some thievery happening, and then they had their car stolen. Yeah, it was really unfortunate. They're such nice people, and they really took it on the chin. And of course, we had the Voyager writers reunion with Brandon Braga and Michael Sussman, Andre Bormes, and Lisa Klink, who was ubiquitous. Lisa Klink was everywhere, and
ubiquitous.
There was a really special panel for me. I did a panel called Chronicling the Final Frontier. It was you could have called it the Son of Making of Star Trek. It was about all people who've covered Star Trek over the years in nonfiction. So we had Mike and Denise Akuda and Peter Holmstrom, who did The Center Seat, and Ben Robinson, who's done a ton of books about Star Trek, Larry Nemechek, Jeff Bond with his Music of Star Trek book, and of course Ed Gross, a co-writer on the 50-year mission. And it was really special, but Scott Mantz did a great job. I asked him at the last second if he'd moderate it, because I felt weird moderating it, because it felt too self-aggrandizing for me to talk about my book and moderate it.
For the first time ever.
yeah, that's right. For the first time ever. And he did an absolutely great job with that panel. So thank you, Scott, for that. Really, it was weird sitting there, all these people who, and I was so glad to hear that Mike and Denise just had the greatest time on that panel.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things we keep saying is when we put up the bat signal and asked all these people to come help us make this something special, we wanted to make sure it was special for them and not just the audience. And to everyone said to me they just had the greatest time, and they were so glad that we invited them. Mike Sussman, Jesse Alexander, Robert Hewitt Wolf, everyone, the Akudas, everyone was just delighted with what a great. I think it exceeded all their expectations.
And thank God, because that was one of the things that, look, there was a bunch of different stresses in terms of putting on this show, putting on this convention within a convention. Number one is, do the audience want to see it? Are they going to show up? Do they dig it? Number two is the people that we invite. As you said, like when we put up that bat signal, the people who respond to it, do they show up, and do we take care of them properly? And I know for all three of us, that was just a huge concern, especially as they were coming in. And, they were like, they're always, look, it's as with any organizational effort, there are issues. It's like somebody's name isn't on the room list and somebody needs a badge and all of those things. And just every single one of those people, we felt like we needed to treat like gold, because we had to treat like gold, and just being pulled in so many directions at once. But I'm glad that we got that kind of feedback, because if you were on those panels and you're listening, we worried about very little more than we worried about you.
Can I just say, there were a lot of people there that we've known for a long time, right? That we love, that we adore. And, Gabrielle Stanton, for you, Robert Hewitt Wolf, so many of these people, right? And yeah, I was so glad to meet so many new people, like Gabrielle Ruiz from Lower Decks, Courtney Taylor from X-Men, that Dan Hageman from Prodigy. I loved him. He was terrific. He was so happy to be a part of everything. Onitra Johnson, you introduced me
Mhm.
to, who was part of the writers panel, who came
Love
with
her.
her young daughter and her sister, and couldn't have been sweeter. And it was her first convention. It was so great because it was so great to, to steal a phrase, cross the generations, because we had people that were there in the 23rd century for, Discovery, and for and people for the 24th, with Next Gen, and Voyager and Deep Space Nine, the 25th for Picard, and people, up to the 31st century. I mean, and it was just remarkable. I mean, it's like we just, all these people, and what was great was a lot of them didn't know each other and had worked on different shows, and so they were able to connect and talk about their experiences, and
It was like the
really
Avengers.
nice.
It
was
I
like.
wanna,
Go
I
ahead.
want to just sort of take a second and mention something about Anitra, who I adore. Um, she is an interesting story, because one of the things that we like to talk about when we talk about the writers of the original series versus the writers who have come later, whether it's the Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, or the more contemporary shows, that the writers of the original series, they were veterans of World War II, of Korea. They had done some things. So what is very unique and special about Anitra in the current pantheon of Star Trek creators is she's a veteran. She has walked the walk, not just talked the talk. She is a graduate of the Writers Guild Foundation Veterans Program, which is another thing that's very near and dear to my heart. We bring, writers who've had real life experiences into the fold of, writing about all this silliness that we like to write about. And I'm very proud of her. I can't take any credit for any of her accomplishments or the things that she's done, but I just wanted to point out that, what, there are people in Star Trek, as it is now, who have things to say about the military and have really been there, and have some perspective on what Starfleet is and what Starfleet could be. And we don't always have to like everything that comes out of all of these shows, but knowing that there's somebody there who gets it, I think is pretty great.
Well, I don't want to jump ahead too far, but I will tell you that on Sunday we had that Inside the Writers Room, which was our largest panel. It was something like I don't know, 14 people, 16 people, whatever. And I mean, when we've done this at San Diego, we're literally falling off the stage. And I got to say, to our stage manager, Stephen Simak, who I'm deeply indebted to, we all are, came up with this great idea to have the front row be the lower seats and then use bar stools behind them. And it was such a great, just the way it was staged. It didn't look like we just had a clutter of people. It looked like a class photo,
Yeah.
right? And
It was like the
so
Newlywed
great
Game.
as we went through each person's experience of how they fell in love with Star Trek, became a writer, and why they were, and the shows they worked on. I mean, obviously it was too short, but it was an amazing panel about writing for Star Trek. And I just thought it was really, incredible. And I think everyone loved getting the chance to know people from the other shows that maybe they didn't know. And there's, started to be like that great crosstalk with each other questions, which I just found remarkable.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the writing Star Trek and Star Trek adjacent that connected everybody. I think everybody connected up there just as writers, as creators. There was definitely, there was like this chemical reaction that was happening up there. It's like everybody saw each other, I think, a little bit differently, and it felt very different from the writing panels that we've done at San Diego.
Yeah, very much so. It felt more sentimental and more heartfelt.
Yeah.
More than nuts and boltsy, which was really sweet, because I think people were really touched, because it was a pretty packed house, and
Yeah.
writers aren't used to getting any kind of love,
Oh, yeah,
particularly at a
because they don't
convention
deserve it.
where it's all about the actors, to see all these people, thousands of people or whatever it is, sitting there watching, coming out for their panel. It meant a lot to them. But I'll tell you, Saturday was our, if there was a day to be there, it was Saturday, wasn't it, Darren?
We started out with memories from long ago of Saturday morning fun, and I thought this was one of my favorite panels of the weekend.
Yeah, me too. I tell you, we started with a half hour of clips, like commercials, from 1973. There's this great Continental Airlines Buster Crab commercial and all this other stuff. We showed clips from, Jason to Star Command and Return of the Planet of the Apes and Space Academy and Arc 2. And it really took you back. And one of the things I thought was great that we did was we gave everyone cereal who came. And then also we were able to give people who came in costume coffee from Pop Culture Coffee, which is our a great new branded coffee, branded Star Trek. And Lucas Kendall, who's the proprietor of that, he's gone from soundtracks to coffee now, was giving out the coffee. And I think, if you came in pajamas, you got the coffee. And a couple people did come in pajamas. And it was so fun because then we brought out William Simpson, the voice of young Spock, who, Darren got to say, "You're a Terran, Spock."
This was his first appearance at a convention ever. The first time he's even gone to one. And I think he was a little overwhelmed by the love and adulation.
I got a great email from him just saying, "Thank you so much for bringing me out here. I had the best time." And
good.
He was signing afterwards, at the booth, and he was so appreciative, which was great because I didn't know. And then we had the Prodigy guys who were also great, including director Sean Bishop, who I love, and he joined us that night for dinner with a bunch of other people that we went out with, and he's a hoot. And it was him, Dan Hageman, Aaron Waltke. And obviously there's a lot of love in that room for Prodigy. So that was great. And it was a really fun way to kick off the day.
I liked it.
Yeah,
me too.
I did too. I was really excited about that. I mean, we spent a lot of money on cereal, to be honest, but it was worth it. But, we weren't done yet because, of course, we had this incredible directors panel. Again, just too short. It was so great because we had this total slugger's row. We had Paul Lynch. We had David Livingston. And then, my God, David Carson. And making his Star Trek convention debut, Rob Bowman. Who I knew because I worked with him on Castle.
Yeah.
And so, when I called up Rob and I said, "Are you interested in doing a Star Trek convention?" He's like, "I've never done one. I've only done X-Files conventions. I'd love to do it." And when I found out, he kept me on the phone for like an hour and a half. He had like an eidetic memory. Like he remembers everything. And so that was remarkable. And he wore out his crew jacket because he's so in such good shape, it still fits him.
Wow.
And it was crazy. And then we also had Jordan Canning, Jordan Canning from Strange New Worlds.
We had Commander Koenig from...
Yeah. Jordan Canning from
1999
Strange New
New
Worlds,
Worlds.
making her convention debut. And she was great. So that was a great panel. And again, it's funny. I ran into Paul Lynch in the hallway like the next day and he said, "That was such a great panel, guys. I can't believe you did that." He said, "I only wish it was longer. We got to do it again."
Yeah.
That's what everybody's saying. Stop asking us to do this again.
I really enjoyed that. And one of the things that, and I talk about it on the panel a little bit, but I talked to Rob about it more afterwards, is Rob, it was such a pleasure to meet Rob Bowman and talk to him because he was the first television director that I became aware of as somebody who directed television. Watching Datalore, which is, it's not a great episode, but there are great things in it. And there are especially for season 1, there's some really great shots in that episode. And just the whole opening where they find Lore is so well done, man. It feels like, oh, this is what a modern Star Trek should feel like, in 1987.
Which also reminds me of another person who dropped out from the weekend was the Crystalline Entity. Couldn't make it.
But that's okay. The Crystalline Entity will return.
Well, I gotta say, and I didn't say this on the panel, was we picked guys and women, directors, who all had a directorial signature, a directorial imprimatur, because like Cliff Ball, may rest in peace, is not somebody I would put on that panel because I thought the only way I could recognize a Cliff Ball episodes because it
His name
was
is on it.
pedestrianly directed. His name is on it. And there are a lot of directors like that on Next Gen where they didn't have their own style. And everyone on that panel, Traffic Cops, had their own. I mean, David Carson, look at his episodes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's why he got the movie. I mean, he made them look like features. And this was not easy in the, late 80s, early 90s, and it was the same for Paul Lynch. And it was the same, for David Livingston. And it was, obviously, and Jordan did the Charades episode of Strange New Worlds, which is really well shot. And so that was a great panel. And again, really nice attendance. And I think people really appreciated it. But the best was yet to come because it was time to celebrate a bunch of anniversaries, wasn't it?
A bunch. Mm-hmm. And the first one we did was
our favorite movie.
Our favorite movie to talk about, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. And big spoiler, they find him.
Yeah, we did Search for Spock, and it was great. We had Ralph Winter, Robin Curtis, and Kirk Thatcher. And it was really nice because every time we've approached that movie on the show, it's a more scholarly deep dive, like Eddie Egan. We're talking about stuff we didn't know, and we're exploring it in a real. Even when we did, had the whole Feige, Metalis, Asbel discussion. It's more, sort of, a cerebral kind of look.
Yeah.
This Robin Curtis and Kirk Thatcher were hysterical.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk was just great. And by the way, I forgot to mention how great he was in Plan 9 too.
Yes.
Kirk was fantastic in Plan 9. I mean, he that Jonathan Harris thing he was doing was hysterical.
He was very nervous about doing that because he said, "Well, you think that'll be okay? Will people get it?" I said, "Yeah, it'll be fine. You'll love it."
But even if they don't get it, that he's doing Jonathan Harris,
it's still funny.
Space. It's funny, so it's great. It works on two levels. But he was great on that panel. Robin, as always, was great.
Yeah.
And Ralph Winter was always informative. Just a terrific panel. And we bit our tongue. We didn't say anything mean.
Well, it wasn't the time. It wasn't the time to tell how much we don't care for it.
It was time to celebrate. It was time to celebrate. It's a celebration. It's the 40th
It's a celebration of them making it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, it's about their stories. It's about their experiences.
Yeah.
It's not about our opinions. Well, you guys know our opinions. We're not shy about sharing them.
That's really important point to make. When you're moderating a panel, it's not about you.
No.
The idea is to get the most interesting stories out of the people you're talking to. And that's what makes a good moderator. It's somebody who asks questions that provoke a discussion, but you don't want to be part of that discussion. That's not your job.
Correct.
And
How do you feel?
And we talked a little bit about Star Trek 4 too. We couldn't help ourselves because Ralph has such great Star Trek 4 stories, and God knows if we'll ever do a Star Trek 4 anniversary panel.
But my favorite part was Kirk actually got off the couch and went into his pose, sitting underneath Kruge with the dog puppet, and it was very funny.
So great. And boy, he was signing up a storm too.
Yeah.
So that was great to see him have such success. And people just love Kirk. And what's not to love? My favorite was when the guy dressed as the punk on the bus came and asked a question.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
He even had a boombox. Well, he had a toy. But,
I said, you're on the edge of etiquette right now.
That's right there.
Yeah. So, and then of course, Scott Mance jumped in to help us out by moderating the 30th anniversary of Generations, which I thought he did a great job. I was really happy with Scott on that. David Carson, Brandon Braga, and of course, Ronald Moore, straight from his dinner at San Diego. He came. He was great. And of
fresh
course,
from
Dave
Morton's,
Livingston.
it's Ron Moore.
So that's a terrific panel. And then I think we got to one of the panels we were most looking forward to. If there was a marquee value panel, it was the Star Trek V 35th anniversary panel.
Yeah.
And we reunited Ralph Winter, Cynthia Gao, Lawrence Luckenbill, and also John Simpson, who played young Sarek.
Simpson.
Right.
Yeah.
He amazed me the most because he looks even more like Mark Leonard now than he did back then.
Yes, he does.
I mean,
You
what
should tell the
amazing
people.
casting.
Tell the Otoy people.
But I love that panel. In fact, I think I loved that panel so much.
You want to take it behind the middle school and get it pregnant?
Damn right I do.
What?
That's the line from 30 Rock. It's Tracy Morgan.
I want to take it behind the middle school and get it pregnant.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, I don't think I said a word during that entire panel because I was just so delighted to hear. And everybody, we had Cynthia Gow in there, right? I mean, they were just so great, and they seemed to just have so much enthusiasm for the experience of making it, for what they did. I mean,
well, especially Lawrence Luckinbill,
yes,
who loves this job more than anyone should.
Yes,
it's truly amazing how much he remembers, how much he committed to it, and how much he still loves the experience.
He is just, and I know we'll talk about him a little bit more, but I love that man. I
love that man, and I will say, and he loves us. And I am so glad that we could offer him a platform to talk about his incredible career, and that we have been a part of the rehabilitation of the reputation of this movie.
Yes.
I think we have been a big part of that. I think we will continue to be when we do our live commentary with William Shatner in San Jose at GalaxyCon on the film in 2 weeks. And of course, our working with Lawrence Luckinbill. And I have to say, he has the most wonderful family.
Yes.
And for someone, he's married to Lucy Arnaz Jr. It's no secret.
No, not Lucy Arnaz Jr.
Oh my God. He's married to Lucy Arnaz. He's married to Lucille Ball's daughter, Lucy Arnaz. And, showbiz family, right? They have 5 kids. They are the nicest people in the world.
Absolutely.
And Lucy kept a really low profile because she wanted to be about Larry. And she is such a wonderful person.
Yep.
And she loves him so much.
Oh my God.
It's just, it's so amazingly sweet.
I actually
this incredible love story.
That, obviously I think we've all seen showbiz families in the past, the actors and their entourages of relatives and all that. And sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's a little, in terms of watching the dynamic and, wondering kind of what's the agenda. But in the case of Larry and his family, I mean, the depth and intensity of the love that they have for him and obviously for each other was really quite striking. It was moving. Yep. Honestly, I told Lucy that. I pulled her aside. I told her that. Just exactly that, because I was just bowled over by it. It was really great to be a part of it.
I was so happy that we could give Larry this victory lap, with his memoir coming off. Because his memoir is amazing. I loved it. I read it cover to cover. And I thought it was really spectacular. And he just has such great stories about Star Trek V. And is probably its biggest fan, its biggest cheerleader. Like, I think he likes it more than Bill does, and it was just wonderful. And it was a wonderful panel. And I remember, I very rarely did I get back to our giant Inglorious Treksperts booth on the floor of the vendor room. And I walked back to just see how it was going because I was hoping that Larry would be selling some books. He had a line that wrapped around the entire room. I mean, it was huge.
Just embarrassing everybody else in there, dude. It was
way bigger than
line. Yeah.
He was signing autographs for hours until they closed the room, and then he did it again the next day.
Yeah.
And I was so happy for him and his family. And it was terrific. But, it was funny because, of course, the next day we did an up close and personal where we just talked about his career, which was not specifically focused on Star Trek V. And it's funny because I thought after people heard him, it would be a packed house. And, there was a good attendance, but it wasn't packed. So I find out after the fact that it was scheduled against the headliner, William Shatner, in the other room.
Oh my God.
And I'm thinking to myself, my God. Shatner is stealing scenes again.
Yeah.
But also, how the hell did we not? I mean, I know exactly how the hell we not, but I mean, now I kind of see that as a missed opportunity.
No,
like not to like put them on stage together, but just to like, find an opportunity for Larry to say hi to him.
Or walk Larry into the big room and have him heckle Shatner.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God! I didn't realize until after the fact that he was up against Shatner, because our schedule was done like a month and a half, 2 months before,
right?
And their schedule was done like 2 days before.
Yeah,
so we didn't know. But oh my God, how great if we had told Shatner and then had him ask a question, and can I take your pain, Bill?
Uh-huh.
And I need my pain. Oh my God, how great would that have been if we had, we had a few things on our mind, but had we thought about it, that could have been one of the great moments ever.
Well,
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I wonder if we should have him call in to San Jose.
Yeah.
And say, Bill, I hear you're in pain over this movie. Let me take your pain. Or maybe have him record something at the beginning and not tell Bill
a message to Bill.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk about this off air because we don't want to give away all our tricks.
Yeah,
we don't want them to see the magicians behind the scenes.
No, we don't.
Penn and tellers of
Pay no
Trek.
attention.
We didn't say anything. You guys didn't hear any of this. You're in on the secret.
This is how we come up with ideas. This is the problem. We're very good planners, but at the same time, we also like to run with things extemporaneously. Like we're very good on the fly. Yeah. So
like half the crap at Plan 9, man. Like I don't think we had like the idea to do the placards and do audience participation until 4:00
that day.
You deserve
Friday.
You deserve all the credit in the world for that because that was brilliant. To get the audience involved. Because one thing we've seen is the audience loves to be involved. Like, and that's why Quiz Show was so successful on Saturday with Rafe Needleman. We paired a Trek celebrity with a contestant, and the audience got to weigh in, and they just loved it. What were the teams, Darren? Because you were instrumental in naming the teams.
We had 3 teams. The first one was called. It was Terry Farrell and her contestant, and it was called Lower Decks.
And he was wearing a Lower Decks uniform, which really
which is why we had that idea. And the second team was Robin Curtis and her contestant partner, and that was called Pond Farther. And the third team was J.C. Brandy and her red-shirted contestant, and they were both in red, so they were the team ops. Yes.
Yeah.
Not as clever as
they
the
can't
other
all be
two,
gold.
but
well, they weren't as clever on stage either.
Right.
I mean, it's like we damned them.
They were so bad.
No. It's not a question of being bad. It's just not being prepared.
He was wearing a red shirt. That was what was so funny.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're so grateful to our friends at La La Land Records and Factory Entertainment for giving us, and Pop Culture Coffee, a mess of prizes that we were able
swag to give away.
Yeah, so that was great. And we really enjoyed getting to share that
and
share that with the audience.
I missed my chance to buy the Enterprise in the block of lucite from Factory Entertainment. I'm gonna.
Me too. I didn't have time.
I understand there's a guy with a U-Haul truck who might have one.
As you know, I love lucite. Huh?
I love lucite. Oh my God, that's really funny.
Not really.
That we're doing that panel. We're doing that panel again at in GalaxyCon.
Yes.
With Rafe. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
Yeah.
We need to get all new prizes.
We're going to be giving away some Treksperts t-shirts.
We got plenty of those. Right, plenty of those, which will be selling as well at
at San Jose.
At San Jose, yes, indeed. And they're beautiful. They look great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good we didn't sell too many of them because the staff was wearing them, and I wouldn't want to confuse the average con goer with our away team staff.
That's right.
So
don't call them away team. They're landing party, Mark.
No. They're away team because not everything has to be TOS, man. Not everything has to be TOS. Away team sounds better than landing party. They're not landing.
We'll agree
they're away.
to disagree.
No, because the landing party sounds like they're going down to a planet. They're landing, right?
Yes.
The starship
landing
is
at
landed.
Vegas.
But away seems like you're away from home. You're doing something. The away team just works better than landing party. For this, I prefer landing party, the naval term for right for the from the TOS. But I have no problem using away team. Well, my problem is when people confuse away team with landing party. When they talk about the original series and say away team, when it was not an away team, it was a landing party. Later on in the 24th century, they started calling it an away team. But I can call it an away team because I'm not confusing it with TOS. I just like it for this.
You know what I like to call them?
What?
Fucking heroes.
Staff. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Everyone from our amazing production coordinator, Aaron Ratner.
Oh my God.
Who, you know, to our stage manager, Steven Simak, who kept things humming backstage, and all the talent wranglers from Dave Docterman to Ira and Caden Altman. Isaac Altman, and
Caden
Miller.
You adopted my child, and
apparently so. And it felt like that at times, right? When we were taking him to lunch.
Yeah,
and then,
exactly.
And
our
Brian
video
Mix,
producer, Brian Mix.
Yeah, Brian Mix. Yep, I was just getting to him. And our social media team, John Carney, and some girl. I don't remember her name.
My God.
I don't remember her name.
Zach and Louis Raggets.
Nice. And of course, Zach, who could not have done it without them. Yeah. They were fantastic. And of course, also Peter, I was just getting to Peter Holmstrom and Grace. And Peter moderated a bunch of panels and did a great job along with Daniel Noah, representing both the Treksperts briefing room and his wonderful podcast, The Young Indie Chroniclers, which is terrific. I don't know if you ever heard it. I don't know. You know, they actually have quite a listenership for about a show that nobody watched. But but it's really great. They got amazing guests, Ben Burt, all kinds of people. It's really terrific. If you haven't been listening to Young Indie Chroniclers, Peter and Daniel have been killing it, and they did a fantastic 12 Monkeys panel for us. They did a whole bunch of panels for us, and did just a terrific job. I'm really proud of Peter, and he roped in Daniel, and they did the Enterprise panel. Really, really terrific. So. We big shout out to Peter, and of course Grace was just amazingly helpful as our assistant stage manager and talent wrangler, and of course our photography team, Deverell Weeks and David Ayer, as well as Max Schmiggy on video. So all fantastic, and then we had one more day. This podcast feels almost as exhausting as it was then.
Not
because
quite.
we're only
We're
up to Sunday.
St. Peter, and he's going over our sins.
We're going to the race to the finish. We talked about our massive writers panel. We talked about having Larry Luckenbill read excerpts from his book, but that was a really special panel.
It was.
Wasn't it? Sitting with Larry, even if it had only been the four of us, it would have been just magical. I mean, that was crazy.
Well, that was the best part about it, because it felt like we were just having this intimate conversation with Larry. Yeah. And the audience didn't matter. It didn't matter that people were off seeing Bill Shatner. Of course they were. Who cares? The content of what happened on that stage, I think, was just so special, so magical. And you know what? If you missed it, shame on you. It's your loss.
Double dumbass on you.
On you.
It was. His stories are just amazing,
and he's such a great storyteller.
Oh my God, totally. And I remember when we interviewed him, and it was like 2 hours on the show, maybe more. And he said, "Oh God, we got to do another follow up because I never even talked about LBJ." And I said, "Oh, definitely." So when we were going to do this, I said, "Oh, this will be a great chance to talk about LBJ." Never got to it. This is one man show of Lyndon. Too much stuff. Because his childhood is so interesting. I was thinking that we might have to, but first we have to record this thing for Shatner.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, I think that's such a great idea.
We could start with like the opening from like Star Trek V with like the guy and the horse riding, and then I don't know. I'm overthinking it, but it could be fun. I am just delighted by that idea.
One of the highlights of the convention for me, one of the highlights of my career was we did this politics and Star Trek panel, and I had Mary Trump zoom in, and I had Ande Kindred, who I can't get enough of, and David A. Goodman, representing, who's former president of the Writers Guild, and Tim Russ, and Mary McDonnell, who's my favorite person in the world.
Oh my God, she's
and
the sweetest
woman. And it was fantastic. And I feel like I'm missing. Oh, and Bob Seska, of course, because Bob Seska is Mary's partner on the Trek Politics panel, and he had come with us to Voodoo Steakhouse on Saturday night. And oh my God, him and my son had a 45-minute conversation about politics. And it was amazing because he wasn't like, sort of like just indulging my son. It's like they got into it. It was like really like this whole thing. And he's like, your son's going to be president one day. I said, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but thank you. That's very nice. And it was so, the whole panel was so great because, of course, Mary was supposed to be there in person, but due to recent events, it made it sort of untenable for her to travel, and so it was my idea to have her Zoom in, and she is a huge Star Trek fan, so we talked a little bit about WPIX, we talked a lot about politics, and at the very end I said, well, I saved the most important question for last, Mary. I said, what's your favorite Star Trek episode? And that was great because she didn't want to commit to one. She started with Trouble with Tribbles and went down her list.
Patterns of Force.
Which was great. Yeah, Patterns of Force, right, exactly. So it was really terrific. It was funny too because we're sitting there and Mary's on the big screen and Mary McDonnell's sitting next to me. And at one point, I said, Mary, and they said, and Mary McDonnell said, both of them turned, and so I said, which one? I said, oh, Mary Trump. I'm just finding it difficult to say Trump. And Mary McDonnell says, well, you call her Mary and call me Madam President.
And I have to tell you, Mary McDonnell could have been, you look at the woman's resume, right? And everything that she's accomplished. And if there was anybody at that convention who would have the right, had earned the right to be a diva, right? And just be demanding and it's her. And she was just so the opposite of that. She was so down to earth. She was so open. She was so nice. I mean, we talked about it, but it's like, I just can't get over how great she was.
She was the first lady in Independence Day.
That's true.
No. Can I just say, it's so funny. This is how wrong. I was an idiot about my COVID test. I was even more, I thought the two most difficult high maintenance people were going to be Dan Fogler and Mary McDonnell. And they were both the nicest, most wonderful, most accommodating, happiest to be there. I was so freaking wrong. I mean, and I'm desperate to work with them on a project now. Both.
Oh yeah.
Fogler
after Plan 9, Fogler was so good. He was all smiles. Like after Plan 9, he just did nothing but grin. After the show, he was
so appreciative, and man, was he in demand. He signed so many autographs. I mean, he actually asked me for more time at the booth because he couldn't accommodate all the, in the time we assigned him. He had to keep signing. So we
shame
gave
you
him
had to
more
say
time.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Dan, but you won't be joining us for the rest of your life.
And then Mary McDonnell just could not thank us enough. I mean, she's ready to, she said, I'm so happy to be part of this Trek family now. And it was really, really sweet. And
yeah, I felt like she was on the verge of adopting us, quite frankly.
She was so great. So, I mean, and then I think another highlight of the 4 days was we closed it all out with none other than our own DAREN, our DOCHTERMAN, taking the stage.
Otherwise known as that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody wrote, that guy did such an amazing job reading from the Star Trek novelization. He should record the whole thing as an audiobook. That guy.
Yeah. That guy.
You know what, though? I think, this is, if I have to critique us, we went out a lot and assumed people knew who we were, and we did not introduce ourselves at the top.
We didn't say our names enough, and we didn't put our names on the logo.
No, we did it.
We just assumed people knew who we were.
But that's fine.
Like, we didn't keep introducing ourselves at the top of every panel
because we're the Treksperts.
And I think we needed to.
And we take no crap when we deliver our Trek rap.
Because DAREN's now that guy.
Yeah.
It's like it's the sequel to That Girl. He's now that guy. So,
although I will say, sure, people don't know who the hell we are, but on the other hand, sometimes they do. One of our listeners came up to the booth when I happened to be there. One of the 5 minutes I managed to be at the booth the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And he was somebody who we had met in Austin. And he was the guy who had who'd brought he had
I couldn't believe he was there.
The photograph, yeah.
He shows up, he's there with his wife, and he says, I think I scared your son yesterday. I said, oh shit. What happened? And he said, well, my wife and I were getting on the elevator, and I looked and I saw like this kind of, skinny teenager, like, in the corner, and I just looked at him and I said, you have got to be Ashley Miller's son.
Get in the van.
Get in the van, exactly. Because he looks just like you. And and Caden was like, yeah, I am. And he said, then my wife said, you probably scared the crap out of that boy.
Are you Ashley Miller's son? No, but
you got a real person.
When I saw him, I said, where's your brother? It's like, I was so happy to see him. Because he's been in a couple of our convention appearances. Of course, he was the one who went to go see Khan in New York, the Khan musical, because of our recommendation. So I feel particularly like I saw him out of context. We saw so many people though, so many of our listeners and Bill York, and I felt bad because I said to Bill, he was at the mic, and I said, "Oh, what's your name?" Because I wanted the audience to hear it, but I knew it was Bill York.
I know your name.
So it's like I didn't want to say, "Oh, it's Bill York." I mean, I even did that with Isaac. He asked a question. It was so nice too, because he said, I went up and asked William Simpson a question because everybody was asking the Prodigy people. And I didn't want Bill to feel left out. So he went up and asked a question about the animated series to Simpson. I said, that was so nice. I said, that was so considerate. But I said, oh, what's your name, young man? And he goes, Isaac. You know what else we forgot to talk about, which took me by surprise? That wonderful panel we did Sunday morning on the movies of 1979.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was a good panel.
There's never been a longer discussion about the black hole ever.
Or exactly. I was going to say, or Moonraker, which it was nearly just a conversation about Moonraker before we.
I almost was going to say. So for all of you who've been clamoring for the black hole discussion, we're done. This is it. You got it. This is as good as it gets. So that was fun, but we talked about Time After Time. We talked about Alien. We barely talked about Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Barely, sir.
Well,
but you got to talk about it on Thursday. You did that great presentation about the 40th anniversary, the 45th anniversary of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which was fun. Another winner.
Well, I mean, I got so many comments about that afterwards that they enjoyed it and learned something, and that's very gratifying.
You know who was very impressed by you?
No,
Adam Malin, the co-proprietor and owner of Creation, because he asked if he could be on our panel. I said, of course, and he joined us for the 79 panel. He said, that Darren is really knowledgeable. I learned a lot from him. I said, I'm glad. Nice. Yeah, I'm glad.
It's almost like when I won that prize in the 1979 Creation Con, and I won a prize for answering a trivia question.
That's so funny.
From Adam Malin.
Well, I used to go, and they joke about this. My first convention, I was like 10 years old. I went to their baseball card and comic book shows in Brooklyn. Yeah. It was now like the Hooker Hotel, daily rates, called Golden Gate Motor Inn in Sheepshead Bay. And it's like, that's where I got my start going to conventions. Like, that was so exciting. I think it was me and Steve Simak, actually.
Oh my goodness.
And here we are, we're running our own mini convention within the convention, and Steve's our stage manager, and we're running this thing, and with all these great Star Trek luminaries. I mean, it's amazing, and it was so great to be working, because for a while, at the height of Next Generation popularity, I was like the fourth tier guy they would go to run conventions, because they'd have 4 or 5 conventions a weekend. And so like if Gary was doing one and Adam was doing one and their other guy or they would send me out on the road to do. That's where I met Dee Kelly. I was in San Diego. At that point I had met everyone in the original Star Trek cast except for Dee Kelly.
Wow.
And it was like, I got to meet Dee Kelly. And they had a show in San Diego where Dee Kelly was the guest. So that was the one time I got to spend any time with Dee Kelly. It was at this creation convention I was running for them. And, I haven't done anything with them in a long time. And so when Gary approached us and said, would you guys be interested in, programming our stage?
And programming a day.
Programming day. Yeah, that evolved much like V'ger. It kept 22 AUs and 44 AUs in diameter, whatever it is. 8 AUs, I don't know. But we were more like the immunity syndrome. Like we were the amoeba sucking up and expanding until we had all 4 days. So which I think is good, because I think it would have been a mess for people if they, tried to have other people doing other days and stuff.
Absolute chaos. Absolute chaos if they had attempted that.
Well, and this is funny. I mean, and we got to sign off soon, but at least I think it's funny. So we get into the room on the first day, and I'm just like, it's way too bright in here. Like, I don't want this to look like, a convention from 1978 selling plastics or something. I said, I want this to look like a theater in the round.
Yeah.
And, they had the beautiful purple uplights and the silhouettes that, DAREN had designed this gorgeous logo that we used everywhere. And we had all this great stuff, but the room was just ugly. It was an ugly convention center room. And I said, look, I want to keep the spots on and the sconces and kill all the lights.
Yeah.
And they're like, great, but we can't do that. I'm like, why not? Because it needs to be a union guy who does this, and he's not here. And I'm like, well, find him. and to their credit, they found him, and
he flipped one switch, and it was done.
And it was gorgeous. I mean, it was gorgeous. And then I get a call, emergency call from Gary Berman. I think it was on Friday or something. He goes, Altman. I said, yeah. He said, I can't see anything in here. There's no lights. And I said, yeah, doesn't it look gorgeous? He says, I'm trying to do an auction and I can't see the crowd. How do we get the lights on? I said, well, you can call the union guy and maybe he'll show up, but make sure you turn him off when you leave. He goes, God damn you. But it looked beautiful in there. I was so happy. It just
and
looked.
If you're watching this on video, look behind me. You can see what it looks like.
Yeah, but they're not going to be watching.
They're not going to be watching this on video because if we have clips, we don't have video.
Oh yeah, you're right. God damn it!
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe they will watch on video, and we'll just give them stills. We'll put stills in.
Well, anything is possible. Let us be your gateway.
Well, look, that's a preview of the kinds of stuff that we'll be sharing with you over the next couple of months from the convention. And for all of those of you, and a lot of people said they came specifically because of our programming track, we're so grateful to you and for your support. Absolutely. And for the many of you that couldn't join us because it was too far or too expensive or you didn't have enough time, we hope we'll share enough that will sate your appetite for Treksperts Star Trek programming.
Look, one of the reasons that we did this and the way that we did it is to try and emulate the feeling we got from going to conventions back in the 80s and 90s, and just sort of the feel of the programming, which wasn't just sort of a PR bash and, something to highlight all the actors. We had some actors, and that's fine, but we are particularly interested in the people who make the shows and who put everything together. And that's what the focus was on. And we're so glad that so many people understood that and enjoyed it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, it was this stuff when I was a kid, I was always hungry for. I was always hungry for the kinds of things that we had on our stage this weekend. Honestly, creation, I know as you guys, had the same experience. I mean, those were my first conventions. Those were my first convention experiences. I thought that was the only conventions there were until I came to understand what a San Diego Comic-Con was. And then my understanding expanded. And there's something exactly right about doing this little con within a con with creation. It feels like it brings it full circle. Honestly, the only thing that we were missing from my childhood convention experiences was Richard Arnold telling us what was going to happen in the next scene, in the next season of The Next Generation.
That's so funny. That's so funny you say that, because that totally brings back memories. And you're, just to add to what you both said, that's exactly what we're shooting for. We're shooting to do the kind of convention that not only look backwards at like the kind of stuff we loved as younger, dare I say, but also the kinds of stuff we always wanted to see at a convention. A lot more attention on the art department, the writers, the directors, the non-actors, right? Because these tend to really dwell on the actors. And I was I was just so gratified to hear all the people, in general, not just our stage, but Anne Marie did a wonderful stage in the lounge. Our good friend Anne Marie Siegel, she deserves all the praise she gets, and on the main stage and the vendor room and just all the other activities, night activities, throughout Greg Grunberg and his band. And what I've heard anecdotally was people felt there was a real sense of community and specialness to this convention that they hadn't experienced in a long time at the Vegas show. And I'm so glad that we could be a part of that. Yep. And we're so appreciative to Gary Berman and Adam Malin for giving us this opportunity to do this and really not, giving us complete carte blanche to do what we wanted.
Yeah.
Which is huge. We weren't getting noted to death when saying, "Oh, really? Do you think anyone cares about that?" They just said, "You guys know what the fans want. You are fans. You're professionals. You're successful professionals. You got a podcast people love. Just run with it." And we did, and it was immensely successful. And we're so grateful to everyone on our landing party / away team and
our landing away team party.
Everyone who tuned in for this. And I got to tell you, last but not least, so I hear from my friend, our mutual friend, Chase Masterson. She says, "So I hear you guys aren't going on the cruise except for Darren. Why not?" And I said, "Because Darren's going to have a great time without us." And she's like, "You should all go on the cruise. You should all go." And I'm like, 9 days on a cruise? No. No. But Darren's going to have a great time and take good care of him. And she said, "Okay, fine, but she said, "You really should reconsider because it's a super fun time and we always have a great time and you guys would be very
I've
additive."
urged these guys to go along too, but they aren't having any.
Well, I'll put it to you this way.
No.
When I told my wife that we were even considering going on a 9-day Star Trek cruise, and by the way, I would be leaving her at home. I think that
you heard the rustle
wisdom
of
our
papers.
choice. Yeah. I was like, no. I think I don't think no quite captures.
And he said, "The word is no. I'm therefore going anyway."
Yeah, except I didn't do it that time because my wife, unlike Starfleet in Star Trek 3, is actually dangerous.
Yeah. Unlike the captain of the Grissom.
Exactly.
There we go. Okay, well, we'll be revisiting. We will surely be visiting this place again in the coming weeks. And of course, please, if you're near San Jose or have the opportunity, you want to come to GalaxyCon San Jose later this month. We have some extraordinary panels planned, which will culminate on Sunday with our live running commentary on Star Trek V with the mighty William Shatner. You don't want
promise to be sober.
Yeah, and I do want to let people know that there are no plans at present to air that on the podcast. So if you're not there to see it live, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to share that due to rights issues. It's not because we're jerks. It's because we're not cleared to air that. So it's very unlikely that'll appear. There's a lot of things that go into these things, and it's not just us deciding what we want.
Lots of moving parts.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll be including a lot more of these panels in the week to come, along with some of that. Some panels that will only be available on Treksperts Plus at Deck 78. So if you're not already a subscriber, now's the time to get on board at trekspertsplus.com. Or if you prefer to listen on Apple Podcasts rather than Spotify, you can subscribe via Apple Podcasts at the 4:30 Movie. And there'll be new episodes of the 4:30 Movie coming this fall. We've extended our season. There'll be more episodes coming. And don't forget, you can enjoy the Treksperts daily on Discord, and as well as on YouTube, where there's always new content, as well as on your favorite social channels. We'll be posting a lot of video and photos from Star Trek Las Vegas, where the party never ends.
ST Las Vegas.
Yeah, hashtag ST Las Vegas. So until next week, on behalf of Ashley Edward Miller, Darren Dochterman, and myself, keep on trekking, ingloriously, of course, as we count down to the end of our 6th season. Will we go more than 7 seasons? Who knows? We'll see next year. Engage. Away team, assemble.